Good job. I got it.
All right, we're on.
Good.
All right. Oh, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. It is still 7:01 p.m. And then I will read my governor's proclamation, not a proclamation. I say that every time. This meeting of the, good evening. I'm Michelle Rehill. I am the chair of this committee. This open meeting of the Library Board of Trustees is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Library Board of Trustees are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Library Board of Trustees to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. I will now do the roll call. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mitch Cohen.
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley.
Mary Crowley, aye.
Jim Hogan.
Jim Hogan, aye.
Nita Karanjkar.
Nita Karanjkar, aye.
Charles Recchia is not here. Joan Scott, also not here. Richard Tucker.
Tucker, aye.
And Michelle Rehill is also here. We also have with us Library Director Jen Bruno. I believe that is it. All right. Having done that, we will move on to approval of the minutes for the December 14th, 2021 meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as stated.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mitch. All right. If nobody has any questions or comments about the minutes, I'll do the roll call. In favor of approving the minutes as presented. Mitch Cohen.
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley.
Mary Crowley, aye.
Jim Hogan.
Jim Hogan, aye.
Nita Karanjkar.
I was excused.
Okay. Charles is absent. Joan is absent. Richard Tucker.
Richard Tucker, aye.
All right. And Michelle Rehill also approved. So the minutes of the December 14th meeting are approved with one abstention. Thank you. And then we will move right on to the appropriations report. Are there any, nothing really looked out of line to me. Nothing, I don't think, I didn't think there was anything unexpected, but yes, Mary, were you going
I
to
have
say?
a quick question. This is my first time on the board again, and I just wanted to make sure, ask Jen a question. Is this about the same percentage at this time last year with all the things that you've had to address, all the needs that you've needed to investigate?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of line items that are a little bit over as compared to last year, just because we've spent a little bit more on some repairs, particularly for the HVAC. But overall, we're right. I think we're at 47% expenditures out of,
Correct.
and we're halfway through the fiscal year. So I think we're right on target, which is a little bit better than when I came on board last year. We were really behind on the spending, which we did catch up. And I wouldn't say all of it. I just like specifically with the materials, we were a little bit behind because of the pandemic and then the turnover. So we seem to be right in line with where we should be.
And I applaud you for that, considering what you've had to do with the HVAC and the other things that you've had to address, which can be a really drain on that bottom line. So thank you.
Yeah, our town facilities person, Sean Thompson, has been really, really, really helpful in addressing some of those repairs and kind of monitoring the expenditure on that. So he's been great to have.
Thank you.
Jen, yeah, I have just a question. Regarding 5112, the assistant salaries, the substitute salaries, it's 161%. Like, I'm not getting that. Like, was it there before last year? I don't see that item number last year. Or maybe I'm mistaken something.
Let me pull it up really quickly. I don't want to misspeak, so let me just grab it.
It's possible that last year we didn't need a lot of subs because we were closed to the public for so long.
Yeah, that because it's a negative, it's 161%. So that just like, I was like, wow.
Oh, okay. I can explain why you're seeing the what looks like an overspend.
Yes.
If you look at 5110, the professional substitute salaries, take those lines sort of in tandem. And right now we don't really have a professional substitute that we're using.
Okay.
So we're using our assistants more to fill in for staff shortages or vacations or things like that. So if you combine those two numbers, that'll give you more of an accurate look at what the budget is for subs. And we're not really, it looks like we're overspending, but it's just sort of a bookkeeping.
Okay, so it has been taken care of from both the item numbers, correct? So it is one and the similar structure, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So no, just because that 161% and that negative was like, wow, something is wrong.
Right. Right. Why are we blowing the budget on that?
Yeah, we are good for the next year, anticipating if this is coming negative, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
thank you so
so-
much.
No problem.
Yeah, I always worry about that when you look at salary totals. Are we doing okay there? As long as we're okay there, I think we're all right overall. Okay, any other questions or comments about the report?
A more general question is, how's the budget preparation going for the next fiscal year, and when will we start to talk about that at our boards?
I think we will start to talk about that fairly soon. Our preliminary requests were due last month, so I did turn in a preliminary request, which was nothing crazy. Mostly a level funded service budget. So I think I'm trying to remember what the timeline was last year. It was a little bit of a blur because I was still kind of new. But I imagine that we'll start to have conversations next month or in March.
Yeah, I think that,
I think February is the right.
if memory serves me, Deborah had gotten most of the budget done by the time you had come on board.
Yes.
So it was, but yeah, it's been a little bit different this year.
Yeah, I watched last night's Board of Selectmen meeting, and at that meeting, the town administrator indicated that things were running a little bit behind schedule due to all of the COVID stuff that that was going on, which makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. There's nothing else on that. We will move on to the library director's report. Nothing crazy, except I'm impressed that the staff has been keeping up with the changes and kind of adjusting some of the programs you did in December. Thank you for letting us know what you were doing and how you were handling that. But does anybody have any questions or comments about the library director's report? Mitch?
I love the data.
Yeah.
As in always, the big chart of the use of library collections. I copied and pasted that into a spreadsheet, and calculated some percentages, which is my hobby. So yeah, I noticed that I think it was the children's books peaked in the summer and then dropped way off. Is that typical, or is that more COVID related?
That's typical. And I think summer reading has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Our numbers go way up in the children's room in the summer, and that's fairly standard throughout,
Mhm.
you know, all public libraries.
Yep.
And then
That's what I suspected. This is, I think, the first time that I remember seeing it sort of month by month for a 6-month period. So I was able to look at it all together, which is great. And I noticed that what I'm guessing is the book portion of the electronic collection, which I can kind of guesstimate at from the lines, and the adult physical books were pretty similar in numbers. I'm curious as to, if you can gather how that has changed over time. I meant to look back in prior reports to see if I could find any of those numbers. I'm curious what has the pandemic done with that ratio? And I'd love to see, once this pandemic is thankfully over, to then look to see how does it bounce back to the way it was.
I can answer that personally. I haven't been in the library. I do reading everything electronic. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, anecdotally. So I was actually just in those numbers. It's really funny that you brought it up. Specifically, I've been looking at audiobook circulation, because between Hoopla and what Overdrive is offering through Libby, combined with the pandemic, the audio CDs are not circulating, unsurprisingly. I mean, I think they were trending down before the pandemic, and then with the pandemic, it almost certainly has turned most people to try Overdrive and Hoopla. And once you try it and see how easy it is, there's no need to go back to something that skips, that you have to keep switching the disc out, and it's just so much easier. So I can tell you that, like, the ratio was changing before the pandemic, and it's definitely quite different now. And I can certainly pull something together. CW Mars has a really easy interface to give you comparisons of numbers. And so you could see how, like, I was looking, we used to get 500-600 adult audiobook circulations a month, and now it's way less than that. So I can pull something together and share it with you. I'd be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel obligated to spend a lot of time on it, but I am curious, not only for my own curiosity, but as we start to think about, different ways of laying out the library and everything like that, to sort of predict what the use of the building might be in another 5 years or 10 years, that those trends would be helpful. But it's hard with this blip of COVID, obviously skewing everything towards electronic, which makes a lot of sense. I'm very curious. It does seem to have bounced back a lot, but I'm curious where it will land.
Yeah, it definitely, our circulation has bounced back tremendously, but like you said, the formats are very different, and I can't see, maybe people will go back to physical books. I can't see a lot of the media going back. Again, especially if you read long books, like I did Under the Dome on CD, it's 26 CDs, and Hoopla it's just your phone. Like, it's not an extra thing to carry around. So, and yeah, it doesn't really take a lot of work. It won't take long. And I agree. It's definitely helpful if we're going to start looking at long-term space usage. It's definitely good to have that kind of in the back of your mind.
Great.
On the other hand,
It's fun.
you have a statement that says, there seems to be little or no desire for virtual programming. The vast majority of families preferring to wait until we can safely offer in-house events again. Are people just worn down, you think, or you're just tired of Zoom and this kind of thing? And
I think that's the case. Yeah, the children's department had asked a lot of their normal families if they wanted the virtual story times to come back. And, you know, if we aren't safely able to resume in-person programming. And most of them said, honestly, it's not the same. And it isn't. I mean, a lot of the benefit to story time, other than the literacy aspect, is the interaction that the kids are getting. Our numbers had been declining toward the end of our last virtual programming round. I think people are just fatigued when it comes to online programming. We tried to do a job searching program last night. We had several signed up and nobody actually came. I think one person did try to log in, but halfway through the time slot, so they had already ended the Zoom call because nobody had showed up. So I don't think we have the audience for it. I know that some towns, they're still doing virtual programming because their numbers keep going up and people are enjoying it. But in Northborough, at least, it seems like people are just sort of tired of screens, tired of the pandemic.
That's true. All right. Any other questions, comments? If not, we will put the old business property adjacent to the library. Does anybody want to address this one? I mean, you've been watching more closely, Jen, and seen the signs change. And I think the property is off the market now. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Unless I missed it, I couldn't see a sign out front today. So I'm not sure what the status is, if it's going back on or what, but I
And
wasn't.
I've been trying to follow it on Zillow and nothing has come up again, so.
Yeah, it was, since our last meeting, there was a pending sale, then a listed back for sale, which meant the sale implied that the sale fell through. And then there was another pending sale, and then it became listing removed, which is
Right.
different than sort of sticking in the pending sale category. Not that I'm a real estate expert by any means, so it's hard to know what to read into that. I did look at the Worcester Registry of Deeds, and nothing has sold on the property. So who knows?
All
Yeah,
right.
just give me a couple of minutes. I'm looking into my MLS. Let my realtor stuff.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, just give me a couple minutes.
Ah, we have an insider.
Yeah, we have.
Why did I forget this?
How could you? Because I was not there last meeting.
Yeah,
You
I'd
guys
forgotten
forget
that.
me.
There you go.
It was on Main Street, right? 30 Main Street?
38 Main. Yeah, 38 Main.
Well, Need is checking that.
Yeah, you guys carry on. By the time I'll check it out.
All right. I know it's going to be under new business with the COVID-19 service update things, but before I forget, I wrote myself a note to ask. Has there been any indication that we've heard that we'll be continuing remote meetings beyond April? Because I'm pretty sure the state had extended it to April of 2022.
Yeah.
And now we're getting this update that says from the town that in-person meetings are suspended for the time being. I didn't know if there was any indication, if we've heard anything from town hall or any hints from the state about going beyond April.
I haven't heard anything. There are bills to make the remote option permanent that seem to be well received and have a large number of co-sponsors. But there hasn't been any. There was a hearing on it over the summer, and there hasn't been any action on it since. I have reached out. It happens to be something that I'm strongly in favor of, so I reached out to our representatives to advocate for it, and haven't heard anything back in a little while. So generally the state deals with this 2-year cycle, so they probably wouldn't consider it for a vote until, December, but or June, or who knows when. But everybody knows that it's going to expire. So many towns are taking such strong advantage of it. It would really surprise me if the legislature didn't at least give it another 6 months or a year with the current law while they finalize something to be permanent. But as of right now, unless something has changed in the last week or so, the current law ends, I think, at the end of March, and then all meetings must be in person again. I think it is, as I said, given everything that's going on, both with COVID and with the favorable review by so many people of the law allowing remote meetings, I think it'll continue, but just nothing yet.
All
How
right.
is that in conflict with the local ability to restrict meetings in public buildings?
So it is potentially in conflict where if the law isn't renewed in some way, then public meetings must be in person in a publicly accessible location, and the public has the right to be there. And at the same time, if the local Board of Health says, no, you can't have any public gatherings in municipal buildings, then they're just in conflict and there's no resolution to that. That isn't going to occur. Either things are going to get wildly better in the next couple of months with COVID, which I hope happens anyway, or the legislature will say, yeah, given what's going on, we need at least a few more months of this. My worry is the legislature won't do anything and the governor won't sign it until the last possible minute. If you remember last May, it actually ran out by a few days before they dealt with it. And there were a couple of days where there were in-person meetings because there was no choice.
Okay.
So,
All right, let's get back to the old business now to see. Nita, have you come up with something?
Yes, so it was pending for 2 times, and just yesterday it is off the market.
That's just-
After going back into the contingent state. So yeah, they just withdrew it. You still have a chance.
oh,
yeah, I mean, obviously I don't think we've done anything with it. I don't know if
Yeah.
we've reached out to John to say, look into it more, or if because there was an offer so quickly after our last meeting, nothing happened.
No, so they had
I hesitated reaching out to him considering what we went through the last time, but when the time is appropriate, I'll be happy to, with Mitch, do that.
well, if the board still feels that it's worth our while to do it, I mean, one of the biggest purposes for doing that would have been to, because, with the hopes that we would be able to get an entrance to the library's parking lot from Main Street. And I know that can't happen because of the size of the property lot. And I don't know that the property itself, said the building, I can't see us acquiring it with the purpose of raising the building. I don't know that, we wouldn't want to do that. Like I said, it's, I don't believe that it's covered by the historical designation, but it is a historical home, so. It doesn't, and it's quite large, so it doesn't leave a lot of application for the property for the library's use. So.
Yeah, I think the only advantage to the library the advantage to the library wouldn't be justified unto itself to buy the property. It would have to be in conjunction with some other town purpose,
Right.
that we have not identified. So my only thought has always been, well, maybe us plus some other group that we don't know of within the town might want it, and together that might justify it.
Mm. Well, we'll let you guys
So regarding the driveway, if I'm looking at the data on my MLS, it says they already have some easement going on with the neighbor for that driveway. So even
Oh.
if we are considering having that driveway for the library purpose, we still have to continue with that easement with the neighboring property. So the whole thing, what we are coming up with the having a proper driveway from Main Street, still in a limbo. So
Yeah, if memory serves me, the easement was to allow the driveway to go out to School Street,
Right,
not to
Correct.
Main Street.
correct.
right, to School Street.
So,
Yeah.
all right. All right, have we finished with discussing the old property for today? If so, we'll move on to the new business, the COVID-19 service updates. Is that the information that you included in your report?
Yeah,
You sort of touched on that. Did you have any more that you would like to discuss or mention in regard to that? Or did anybody have any other questions relative to that?
not a lot of updates. I had put it on because we had a COVID task force meeting earlier this afternoon and I wasn't sure what was going to come out of it. And I guess in this case, no news is pretty good news. We're just going to continue on, keep an eye on the numbers. You know, we're not getting any pushback from, like, I haven't had a single complaint about, you know, not using the meeting spaces or not having in-person programs at this time. We had the mask requirement for a while, so the townwide mask mandate's really nothing too big for us in terms of a change. So our staff really never stopped wearing masks. So, you know, nothing's really like a huge change, and it's sort of in keeping with what other towns around us are doing in terms of their libraries. So, you know, for right now, we're all comfortable. I think the town is doing an amazing job when it comes to offering testing for us and all the vaccine clinics that they're doing. So today's meeting was mostly focused on testing and making sure everybody has the option to get the booster if that's what they want, and encouraging people just to enforce the mask rule.
Thank you.
All right. And one other thing. Oh, it's on my calendar. It's on here, but pardon me while I look at my calendar. Make sure I say the right thing. 15. I thought that we should make it official and have a vote. We had our usual meeting is the second Tuesday of the month. November 8th is election day. So we discussed what date would be best. People would prefer last month. And it appears that most people are more comfortable continuing on a Tuesday night. So I would like to have the board, if you want to discuss it first, you can, but have the November meeting be on Tuesday, November 15th, so that we don't conflict with election day. So if
You
anybody
need that
wants,
in the form of a motion, Michelle?
I do need that in the form of a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion and then we can discuss it if people
Okay.
have.
And I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mitch. All right, is there any discussion about having the meeting on the third Tuesday of the month, November 15th, 2022, so we do not conflict with election day on November 8th?
Makes sense to me.
Okay. All right, then, if everyone is ready, no one else has any comments, I will take the vote. All those in favor, Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley,
Mary Crowley, aye.
Jim Hogan,
How can I?
Nita Karanchkar,
Nita Karanchkar, aye.
Richard Tucker,
Tucker, aye.
and Michelle Rehel. I also vote in favor of that. So the motion passes unanimously to change the November trustees meeting to Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Alrighty. Is there any other business that may come before the board at this time? Anything anybody else would like to bring up, discuss, comment? If not, the date of the next meeting will be February 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. And that being said, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Was that you, Jim?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Nita. All right, I will do the roll call vote. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley,
Mary Crowley, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Nita Karanchkar,
Nita Karanchkar, aye.
Richard Tucker,
Tucker, aye.
Michelle Rehil, aye. The motion carries in the affirmative unanimously. The meeting is called to order, adjourned.